Let's look at some multi-step equations, this time with variables on both sides of the equal sign. So let's go ahead and just start with some regular, simple multi-step equations. So look at this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the right-hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine like terms. All right, so I get negative 10x. So now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10 using the division property of equality. And I get that to equal 1, and then x equals 2. Same thing here. I'm going to combine like terms. So I got the 1 and the 5. Those are alike. Put those together. And then I will subtract using subtraction property of equality, both sides. And then I will reduce. Right? And then I'm left with this. I'll divide both sides by negative 2. Division property of equality. And there you go. N equals 0. All right, so now those are just some multi-step equations. Look at some multi-step equations when we have variables on both sides. So what a lot of people want to do is they want to put that 8x and that 7x together and combine them, but they're on different sides of the equal sign. So that's not combining like terms. That's actually going to be the subtraction property of equality. What I'm going to have to do is get them on the same side. And I have some choice. I could subtract an 8 or a 7x. Doesn't matter. I chose to move the variables to the left here and subtract 7x to both sides. So now I will actually add those together, and it gives me, right, a zero pair right there, and then x equals, right, just x minus 2. So I subtracted a 7x to both sides. Then I'll do the addition property and add a 2 to both sides. There's a zero pair, and then x equals negative 7. So you got to get the variables on the same side of the equation by using a property of equality. All right. So same thing here. When I do this, I've got to get the m's on the same side, right? The 4m. So here it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use subtraction. I'm going to subtract a 4m to both sides. All right. Those both equal 0, and I get negative 4 equals 0. And then in this case, this is a false statement. So this is no solution or undefined. Right? That doesn't equal anything. There's no answer to that question. All right, next one here. So I got a 5p and an 8p on the same side. So I'm going to go ahead and do subtraction property of equality, and I'm going to subtract 8p to both sides. Okay. Getting them on the same side. So I'm trying to get those variables on the same side. All right, and I get, that's a zero pair, and I get negative 3p minus 14 equals 4. Now I'm going to add a 14 to both sides, right, using the addition property. Then I get negative 3p equals 18. And then I'll divide both sides using the division property. And p equals negative 6. So now at this one, there's only one variable in the question, it looks like. So I don't need to worry about moving them over, but I do need to simplify the right-hand side. So I'm going to use the distributive property and distribute that negative, right? Then I'm going to add a 4 to both sides using the addition property of equality. Now I got that negative in front of the x. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1 using the division property of equality. And then I'm only crossing out the negative side, not the actual x. And then x equals negative 4. And that negative sign is really a negative 1. Right? It's really a negative 1 right here. All right, so same type of question. First thing I'll do is I'm going to distribute. Then I'll use subtraction to both sides. So subtract an 8 to both sides of the equation. And then I have that negative in front of p, so it's negative 1p, right? There is a single p, negative 1p. Division property, divide both sides by negative 1. And I'm just only reducing the negative 1, not the actual p. And p equals negative 6. All right, so now we're starting to put these two together. So what we're gonna do is simplify both sides, then get all the variables on the same side. So I'm gonna look at each side. So first I'm gonna look at the left side. I'm gonna ask myself, is there anything to do? And there isn't anything. On the right-hand side, I can do distribution. So I'm gonna do that first. I'm gonna do distribution property. Okay. I can multiply the 6 times the 1 and times the 3. Now that there's nothing else to simplify, I'm going to add or subtract and get the k's, the variables on the same side. So I like to move stuff to the left, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to subtract an 18k. I could just as well add a 6k to both sides. It's going to come out the same answer either way. So now I get a zero pair, right? And then I combine like terms. And then I'm going to go ahead and add an 18 to both sides, addition property. Okay. Then here I'll divide both sides by negative 24. And the k equals negative 1. So simplify each side, then use addition or subtraction to get the variable on the same side. All right. Nothing really to do on the right hand side, but there's something to do on the left. So I got distribution right here. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute first and multiply the 2 times the 4 and the 2 times the negative 3. And now I can combine like term. These back two terms are alike. So I'll combine like terms. All right. Now I've simplified both sides. So now I'm going to use the subtraction or addition property to get everything on the same side. So I'll use subtraction. I'm going to subtract 2x to both sides. My zero pair right there, and I get 6x minus 14 equals 4. I have a nice two-step equation. I'm going to add a 14 to both sides, get a zero pair. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 6 using the division property. Okay. X equals 3. Okay, so looking at this one, I have to multiply using distribution property first. So I get two sets of distribution. I'm going to distribute this negative 1 that's right here, right? And then this negative 6. So I'm going to multiply inside distribution property. So I'm going to get negative 1 minus 7x. A negative times a negative is a positive. Same thing here. So now I'm going to look for like terms. And the negative 1 goes with the 42. That's where I got a 42. And a negative 7 and a positive 6 is a negative 1x. Okay, now I've simplified, so now I'm going to use a property of equality. So I'm going to subtract the 41 to both sides. And then I'll divide by negative 1. And remember, I'm only reducing the negative 1 right here, not the actual x. And x equals 5. All right, so they're getting a little bit longer here. So same thing, simplify both sides. So I'm going to do distribution right here, right, through multiplication. And over here, I actually have to combine like terms. Okay, so let's do the distribution first. So I'm going to multiply negative 5 times 1, negative 5 times negative 5, which is positive 25. 5 times 8 is negative 40. It's negative 8, and 5 times negative 2. Okay, now I'm going to see if I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So I got a positive 25 goes with negative 40. That's where I get negative 15. A negative 5 combined with a negative 10 equals negative 15. And negative 4 combined with a negative 8 is negative 12. So now I got to get these x's on. So they're on opposite sides, right? So these are not like terms. These two, the 25 and the negative 40 were like terms because they're on the same side of the equation. These are not on the same side. So this needs an addition property or subtraction property of equality. I'm going to go ahead and add a 15x to both sides. Okay. Of equality means I do it to both sides of the equal sign. And I get zero pair, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And x equals negative 5.